What if I told you that one of the most powerful stories hidden in the Bible isn't about King Solomon himself, but about a woman who helped shape his legacy, and perhaps even his downfall? Yes, Naama. You've heard of Solomon's wisdom, his wealth, and even his mistakes, but the role of Naama, his wife, is a story buried between the lines. Why isn't her name on everyone's lips when we discuss the rise and fall of Israel's greatest king? It's as if history tried to erase her, but left just enough breadcrumbs for the curious to follow. Naama wasn't just another queen in Solomon's harem. She was a woman whose influence reached far beyond her marriage. She wasn't an Israelite, but an Ammonite princess, an outsider with her own gods, her own traditions, and a heritage that clashed with everything Israel stood for. What if I told you that her story is more relevant to our lives today than we realize? This isn't just a history lesson. It's a blueprint for understanding how relationships, compromises, and faith intersect in ways that can either build kingdoms or destroy them. Ready to uncover the secrets they didn't want you to see? Let's begin. Naama, a name that might not be the first to come to mind when thinking of King Solomon's grandeur, holds a fascinating place in the biblical narrative. As a princess of the Ammonites, Naama was not just a wife of Solomon, but a figure of intrigue and complexity. Imagine being born into a kingdom that was often at odds with Israel, and later becoming the queen in its most prosperous era. Naama's story is one of cultural crossroads. Her very marriage to Solomon speaks of a world where politics and personal life were deeply entwined. Just think of the weight she must have carried, not only as a wife, but also as a bridge between two vastly different peoples. Her presence at court, mingling Ammonite traditions with Israelite customs, could spark as much fascination as it did tension. Yet, Naama wasn't just a passive figure in Solomon's story. Her life prompts deeper questions. What was it like to navigate the opulence of the palace, knowing her origins were rooted in a people who worshipped different gods? Picture her introducing elements of Ammonite culture to the Jerusalem court, a tapestry of traditions woven together in unexpected ways. Her role as a mother to Solomon's successor, Rehoboam, adds another layer of depth to her story. Naama's legacy is more than just being a queen. She represents the intersection of personal identity and political strategy, where every gesture, every word, carried implications for a kingdom. Naama's marriage to King Solomon wasn't merely a royal affair. It was a masterstroke of political strategy. In a time when alliances were often solidified through marriage, this union symbolized a truce between two historically hostile nations, Israel and Ammon. Imagine the tension in the air as Naama left her homeland, carrying with her the hope of peace between her people and Solomon's kingdom. It's like watching a chess game where every move is calculated, except this was real, with stakes far greater than a board game. Her marriage wasn't just about love or companionship, it was a declaration of diplomacy. For Solomon, aligning with the Ammonites meant securing borders, ensuring trade routes, and reducing the likelihood of conflict. But here's the twist. While this union brought political stability, it also came with its share of complications. Think about it. How do you balance the expectations of two nations? Naama wasn't just a wife. She was a symbol of unity and, at times, a target for criticism. Her presence in Solomon's life likely stirred debates among the Israelites, who might have questioned her influence on their king. And yet, these alliances shaped the very fabric of Solomon's reign. Naama's story reminds us that great leaders often make decisions that ripple far beyond their personal lives, creating legacies that are as contentious as they are impactful. Naama's influence on Solomon extended far beyond the political realm. It crept into the deeply spiritual fabric of Israel. As an Ammonite princess, Naama brought with her the religious customs and beliefs of her homeland. It's easy to imagine how her presence in the palace, surrounded by the grandeur of Solomon's court, introduced new ideas and practices that both fascinated and challenged the Israelites. This wasn't a quiet, behind-the-scenes influence. Her traditions became a visible part of Solomon's life. Over time, the king, renowned for his wisdom, allowed himself to accommodate these foreign religious practices. One could picture grand altars rising on the high places, not for Yahweh, but for the gods of the nations Solomon had allied with through marriage. But this wasn't just a personal matter, it sparked a spiritual and cultural storm in Israel. For the people, seeing their king participate in or tolerate idolatrous worship must have been a blow to their faith. Solomon's compromises sowed seeds of discontent and division, causing ripples that would eventually fracture the kingdom. And yet, Naama's role in this isn't just one of blame. It reveals the profound tension between personal relationships and public responsibilities. Her story reminds us how the beliefs we hold, or even tolerate, can shape not only our lives, but the lives of those around us in ways we might not expect. Naama may not dominate the pages of the Bible, but the subtle mentions she does receive are packed with significance. One of the most notable references to her appears in 1 Kings 14:21, which identifies her as the mother of Rehoboam, Solomon's successor. This detail, seemingly small, ties her directly to the lineage of Israel's kings and the unfolding of its history. It's fascinating to consider how her Ammonite heritage intertwined with Israel's royal bloodline, adding a layer of complexity to the nation's spiritual and political trajectory. Her presence in the scriptures invites readers to dig deeper, to connect the dots between her influence and the eventual division of Israel. But beyond direct mentions, Naama's story is echoed in broader narratives about the dangers of divided loyalties. Think of Solomon's downfall, how his many foreign wives, including Naama, drew his heart away from the Lord. Passages like 1 Kings 11:1-8 describe Solomon's entanglement with foreign gods, painting a vivid picture of the tension between faithfulness to Yahweh and the pull of political expediency. Naama's role, while not extensively detailed, offers a glimpse into the personal relationships that shaped monumental events in Israel's history. Her life is a reminder that the stories between the lines of Scripture often hold the key to understanding the bigger picture. The consequences of Naama's influence on Solomon, and by extension on Israel, are both profound and sobering. Her introduction of Ammonite religious practices into the palace contributed to Solomon's spiritual decline, a shift that would ripple across the kingdom. Picture this: a kingdom once united under a wise and godly king, slowly fracturing as altars to foreign gods appeared throughout the land. These compromises in worship weren't just a personal failure for Solomon, they became a national crisis. By allowing idolatry to flourish, Solomon set the stage for deep divisions among his people, divisions that would ultimately lead to the split of the kingdom into Israel and Judah after his death. For the Israelites, this wasn't merely a political disaster, it was a spiritual reckoning. Idol worship introduced by figures like Naama diluted the nation's devotion to Yahweh, leading to confusion and moral decay. The tragic irony: Solomon, the man who built the temple for Yahweh, also became a symbol of spiritual compromise. Naama's story, then, isn't just about her influence on Solomon, but about the far-reaching consequences of divided loyalties. It's a powerful reminder that the choices of one generation often echo in the lives of the next, shaping destinies in ways we can't always foresee. Naama's story isn't just about a woman from ancient times. It's a reminder of the weight of influence, the dangers of compromise, and the lasting impact of our decisions. How often do we let outside influences shape our choices, even when we know they might pull us away from our faith, our purpose, or our calling? Her story challenges us to reflect on the alliances we form in our own lives. Are they building us up, or are they leading us astray? So let me ask you this: what influences are you allowing into your life today? Are they drawing you closer to the divine plan God has for you, or are they distracting you from it? Take a moment to evaluate the choices you've made and the ones you're about to make. If you want to dive deeper into these incredible biblical truths and discover more untold stories like Naama's, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Together, we'll keep exploring these hidden gems and applying their lessons to our lives.